this is when you basically realize that, wow, there is no going back. The neurologist called me and he said, you have this huge tumor. Would I make it alive? Will I be normal? If Andreea that wakes up is not the Andreea that you know, I'd rather not live. Why did I survive?
Yes.
Some people do not.
Yeah.
Why was I given a second chance? I think death is the gift that can awaken our ability to live with more joy.
What's your purpose today?
To be a catalyst for joy. You have to master the conditions that will allow you to tap into flow and really show up as the best version of yourself. And when you're in that state, you're going to be so massively euphoric and you're going to say, wow, 2 hours have passed by and I didn't even see it.
Together, we're going to meet the most singular individuals, entrepreneurs, artists, athletes. If you love the show, the only thing I'm going to ever ask you is to subscribe and share to your friends. I cannot express how much this helped me bring you the most exceptional guests. Thanks so much. Enjoy the show. So, Andreea, I'm very, very pleased to have you today, and I'm going to explain you a little bit why. So, I think that today we're going to talk about joy, happiness a lot, right? And it's one of those subjects, one of those topics that are the most interesting to me because I'm seeing all over the place on the internet, in article, amazing presentation, amazing stories, amazing literature, amazing studies around joy and happiness. And I feel like there is this boom of self-awareness in terms of trying to be to have a deeper introspection of who we are, why we do things, what the purpose of life, all of those things, right? And at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of people around me starting to have more depression, to feel more anxiety. A lot of people telling me that they don't want to have kids in this world that is becoming crazier and crazier. At least it's what it seems, right? So I feel like we are into this paradigm where, in one end, we feel like our life, our surrounding, our civilization is in a crazy state. And the other end, we are in this pursuit for happiness, right? And it's really those two aspects that I feel sometimes difficult to intertwine. How can we be happy in such a world? Or how the world could be a better place if we were happier. So it's like this chicken egg type of situation. And so it's obviously we are going to dive into all of that. We're going to spend time trying to understand your personal story. What are your motivations? What led you to dedicate your time today to this topic? But overall, I believe that it's an important topic to discuss. And I think that we don't have enough voices to talk about it. We don't have enough different angles to try to dissect how to approach this topic. So what I propose to start is I would like you to explain us a little bit who you are. Obviously, we're going to go through your journey, but who's Andreea? What led her to be here today, and what's your pursuit of happiness? What's your purpose in life?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. And to answer your question in terms of what's my purpose, why am I here? For me, it's very simple. I'm a catalyst for joy. And it's about bringing joy into this world and also experiencing joy for myself as well. How did I actually get there? To answer your other question, it's numerous stories and a very long journey that has been amplified, I would say, over the last couple of years, particularly back in 2020 when everyone was focused on the pandemic, everyone was in isolation, and you're wondering, will I catch this? Will I die in the process? And so on. I had just started a new venture, and we developed a health tech application. We were working with large organizations and amplifying the holistic well-being of employees. So a lot of effort, a lot of energy in building that business. And in the process, I wake up from one day to the next, literally. And I have these pains that I'm feeling on just half of my face. So brushing my teeth, drinking water, talking, laughing, any sort of movement that required any of the facial muscle would literally lead to huge pain from the head here, literally until down to the neck. And I was shocked because the previous day, everything was totally fine. I had actually been focused on prevention. My life was focused on eating healthy, exercising, meditating, everything that we read is excellent for our health. I was actually doing, and that's what we decided to condense, if you wish, into an application for the venture that I had launched. And when this happened, particularly because I had never been sick before, I mean, I could not even remember when I had a cold. I mean, it was years and years. I was always super, super happy, super high energy. And all of a sudden to have these pains was like, whoa, what's going on? This is very, very strange. So this led me, of course, to a consultation within 24 hours virtually, because no doctor wanted to actually see you at that time. And I was originally diagnosed with a condition that is called trigeminal neuralgia. And they said, this condition is a chronic pain condition for which there is no cure. You'll have this for the rest of your life, and we can manage your pain potentially with some medication, but the response from patient to patient really varies. So some people react very well, while others just live with pain. And the doctor said, I really recommend that you take the medication right away because the pain is just going to get worse and worse and worse from day to day. And he basically prescribed me the medication, and he said, but I will also send you to see a neurologist to actually have really someone that can follow you over the coming years in terms of the right dosage for the medication and so on. And when I got the news, of course, I went to the pharmacy, I got the medication, and I remember asking, how long will it take before the pain will actually go down? And they said, it will take 3 days. So I was in total shock. I was like, wow, okay, this is something super, super serious. And I was in denial. I said, no, I'm going to sleep more. I'm going to meditate more. I'm going to be more zen. And I'm going to see if the pain is actually going to go away. But it never actually went away. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm a super high energy person, super happy, very, very enthusiastic. And I was losing my joy for life literally every single day, because even just a small smile would cause so much pain that I lasted about a week without the medication, but I had it with me. And it got so bad that literally I would even get up in the middle of the night with pain that was so bad and that would last for so long that I was almost crying. So I said, okay, I'm going to ignore the side effects from this medication. I'm going to take it while I basically go see the neurologist. And by the time I saw the neurologist, the pain had improved, but it never went away 100%. And he basically saw me and he said, yes, I confirm you have trigeminal neuralgia, but we're going to have to do an MRI at the level of your brain to see what's actually pressing on that nerve in your brain, the trigeminal nerve. And because of COVID, because the hospitals were just, in a horrible state, he said, you may have to wait months before you can actually get the results. And I said, no, I'm going to proceed. I'm going to find another way. And that's what I did. So I went to do an MRI literally 48 hours later in a private clinic. I got the results within a week, and basically right after, the neurologist called me and he said, Andreea, we now know why you have these pains. It is not actually the trigeminal neuralgia condition that you have. What is actually happening is that you have this huge tumor that basically is actually pressing on the trigeminal nerve, and that is what is activating this pain for you. And the next thing was, I'm going to have to send you to see a neurosurgeon. So for someone that has never been sick, literally all her life, for me, it was like the worst possible scenario that you could envision.
Yeah. So over the span of 3 weeks?
Yes,
so,
exactly.
So 2-3 weeks,
Yes.
you went from a state where you were the happiest person alive
Yes.
to being into the situation where you are in deep pain, learning that you have a brain tumor.
Exactly. And of course, the first question that I had when a neurologist said this, I said, well, is a tumor cancerous? And he said, from what we can see from the scans, it looks benign. And he said, this is my inclination right now, but you'll have to really see with a neurosurgeon, and only once they actually do the autopsy on the tumor will they be able to confirm that. But right now, because there's various shapes and forms in tumors that can allow them to determine whether it looks cancerous or not. So that was a good news. Yeah. But of course, I cannot even describe you have this weight that all of a sudden you feel on your life, on your body, and it's more about the consequences, what will happen to my kids, my husband. It's like this whole aura of negativity that just expands as you begin looking potentially at death.
Yes.
Because as soon as you touch the brain, which controls literally everything that you do, from walking, breathing, talking, the risk is massive. And my conversation with the neurologist was focus on, well, can you make sure that you send me to see the best neurosurgeon that you know? I don't care where the neurosurgeon is. Just guide me towards the best one. And he said, okay, I'll guide you. I'll make sure you get an appointment with, his name is Dr. Sirhan. But it's going to take a long time. It's really, really hard to go see him, but I think it's worth the while. So I said, let's do it. And what happened, of course, is that I began all this research on my own about brain tumors and all the data that was available publicly. And of course, my family was so concerned that we started exploring all these other consultations with other doctors, even outside of Canada. And that's what led to multiple views and perspectives. And I was sending the scans, and I started gaining a broader understanding about, what are the complexities, what are the risks associated to operating on the brain. So by the time I actually saw Dr. Sirhan, I had so many other consultations with neurosurgeons all over the world. And I was thinking, okay, well, how am I going to move forward? Because the borders were closing literally everywhere. So even if this conversation with Dr. Sirhan doesn't go very well, my options are becoming very limited, because maybe I can exit Canada, but I won't be able to come back. And the recovery period being so long, it just adds to the complexities of how you actually plan such a thing. And
did you know for how long you had this tumor?
Yes. The crazy thing was that when I went to see the neurosurgeon, I went to get a brain scan that I had done about 10 years before, when I had fainted. And when I was brought to the hospital, they said, we're gonna do a scan on your brain just to make sure that there's nothing happened. They said, maybe you had a stroke and we don't know. And we had that MRI basically from that moment, from 10 years ago. And when I went to see Dr. Sirhan, I said, well, was a tumor there? And he said, yes, it was. Here it is, Andreea.
And no one saw it.
No one saw it. But of course, it was much, much smaller. It had grown over the years. And And they said, yes, it's clear that your tumor has grown for over 10 years. And miraculously, you have had zero symptoms. But one thing he said, Andreea, can you walk straight? Because typically in the region of the brain, it impacts your balance. And of course, he made me do these tests, and he said, yes, you could see that I was not 100%. Like, so I was beginning to lose my balance, and then.
And you never noticed it.
No. What happened is that I had vertigo about a year before. And vertigo, once again, I was told there's no cure. It's just going to go away. So I ended up doing everything you can imagine, from acupuncture to physio, and they were making me do all these exercises. And it was interesting because the physio therapist saying, it's very strange that your vertigo is not going away. You're doing everything that you should be doing. You're following my guidelines. You've even done acupuncture, and it's not going away. And it did go away, but it never went away 100%. And this is when you start connecting the dots, and you're realizing that, wow, okay, it was not actually vertigo that I had. It was a tumor that was just expanding, and just things were starting to break down. Vertigo was just one of the symptoms, then the pain, and what the neurosurgeon said. Next, as a tumor expands in your brain, there's going to be other things that will start going crazy, from how you talk, your ability to see clearly, and so on. And this is when you basically realize that, wow, there is no going back. Like, this is something I have to deal with. And if I don't make the right choice right now in terms of taking care of this problem, it will just get worse and worse and worse to a point that you will eventually die. How long it will take, it really depends on each person.
How do you communicate the news to people around you? Are you talking about it with your kids at the time?
So the kids knew I had the pain.
Yeah.
My husband was with me when I had the consultation with the neurologist when he gave me the news. And the first thing that I told him, I said, I do not want to become a burden for you and the kids. This was my first comment, because I said, as soon as you touch the brain, and literally every single person that I knew that had something tied to the brain either passed away or had debilitating consequences. So that was my message to my husband at the time. And we decided that we would just tell the kids that I was going to get an operation to take away the pain. But we didn't go into detail about the complexities and that it was a tumor, because they were still fairly young, and we felt that it was not going to lead us in the right direction, let's just say. We wanted to remain positive and hopeful for the future, and just keeping it simple was our strategy. And then, of course, I had to communicate this to my parents, to my brothers. And what I realized, that it was a news that became so heavy on me that even sharing the news with my business partners, and actually that had just recently invested in my startup, one of them had just injected some money in the company, and imagine 6 months later, I have to tell him that I'm pulling away from the business because of this diagnostic. So it's, as I said, it's a very hard thing to do. And one of the conversations that I was having with my business partners was, we can't tell our clients. What are we going to do? And one of them said, Andreea, no, we have to be truthful. We have to say what's going on, because you're like the heart of this organization, and we have to make sure that we're heading in the right direction here. And it was just so heavy for me to even make the decision, okay, well, how do we communicate this to the clients, and how do we move forward? And what I was realizing is that the more I was deciding to share the news, the more energy it took from me.
It's draining.
And one of the things that I realized is that it was my identity that I was losing. I was losing my, Andreea, the powerful, the strong woman that a lot of people looked at me to be. And it was almost as if my identity was being erased as a result of what I was getting ready to pursue. Yeah. And I was struggling because you want to live in this world with the image that others have of you. And often I was called superwoman, the dragon lady, like Andreea can do anything. Like, how does she juggle all these things? The family, the kids, being a pilot, for fun, traveling all over the world, writing all these books. And I was just hanging and clinging onto that identity that the world had developed of me through just my own personal passion, energy, and curiosity. And I was clinging to that. And for me to share the news with the world was about erasing that identity that the world had basically come up with.
And exposing a weakness and
yes.
Like a fragility. And so how, until the operation happened, so during all those weeks, I don't know, how long did it took between the first consultation and the surgery?
A couple of months. I was actually operated on in November 2020.
So during those couple of months, what was your strategy for survival, I would say?
Yes.
Where did you focus on yourself, or at the contrary, were you more trying to defocus on yourself and focus on something else? How did you manage to keep some of this energy that was defining you at the time?
So one of the strategies was that I'm just going to share the news very selectively because it was just draining me.
Yes.
And literally every single conversation, I would end up in tears. And I just I said, I can't. I have to think about my kids. I have to think about my husband. How am I showing up for them? And we were in isolation. And I made a choice that I never wanted to become a victim of the circumstance, and that whatever would emerge after the operation it was unknown, right? We did not know what would happen, whether I would survive, not survive, whether I would even have facial paralysis, because that was one of the risks, because the facial nerve was just glued, and it was one of the risks that the neurosurgeon highlighted for me. And I said, I do not want to be remembered as a victim if these are my last days or if these are my last weeks. So I actually chose joy. Despite the craziness and the consultations and everything that I was doing, I was going to the hospitals to do further tests, more MRIs, even confirming that I had the balance problem that was caused by the tumor that had just massively expanded in my brain. And actually, it had completely destroyed what is called the vestibular nerve or the vestibular system that helps you stay balanced and walk, straight. When they did these crazy tests that lasted several hours, they realized that my whole vestibular system had been squashed by the tumor, and the other one had actually completely taken over. So when the operation actually happened, this is why in the first few days, I could not necessarily walk because the brain is like, whoa, okay, now there's all this space. The tumor has basically been taken away. Now I was able to find my balance, but it just took a lot of physio and training to get back on my feet.
This part of your life is the best example of what I mentioned earlier, which is how to find joy in a chaotic circumstances, right? Where everything seems to fall apart, where hope is limited, where you don't have connections because of the lockdown, right? So all the negative stars were aligned against you, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you find refuge into joy. How did you achieve that?
So to go back to what you mentioned earlier, the world the outer world can be very chaotic. Sorry, let me just start this over. The world outside can seem very dark, very chaotic. Yeah. But I think what we do have control over is our inner world, our inner emotions, the choices that we make in terms of how do we look at specific adversities or challenges that come our way. Yes. That we have full control over. And that's what I chose to do. I chose to focus on my own inner ability to see the beauty in every moment, to see the joy in my children, to enjoy every single second of the day, be in awe by the moon, by the flowers, by everything that I was surrounded by that often we lose sight of because we're just like in this speed train that is moving so fast from one priority to another that often we just lose our ability to just stop and be present and contemplate life, the beauty of this moment. Yeah. And when I made that choice, so once again, I was, there were, highs and lows, of course, every single day. And I was making a lot of choices prior to the actual operation. But I had to, as I said, find the joy in being alive now. And yes, I did not know what would happen after the operation. Would I make it alive? Will I be normal? But it was already very clear with my husband. I said, if Andreea that wakes up, if I do wake up after 9 hours of the operation is not the Andreea that you know, I said, I'd rather not live and you continue with your life.
It's powerful to be able to be into this situation where basically you are almost in this situation where you may lose everything, right? Where you may be, as you mentioned, like a type of burden for your family, right? And trying to have this discussion with your husband to say, if I'm not the same, let me go. Mm-hmm. How do you? It's probably one of I try to picture myself having the discussion with my wife, right? And it's probably one of the toughest thing to say to discuss with your loved ones, right?
Yes.
How do you manage to have this decision without being even more depressed, even more scared, even more fragile?
The reality is that often we can live our lives as if death is not something that will emerge in our life. But for me, it was a possibility that all of a sudden just, was there. And we walk in this, in this world as if we're immortal. And all of a sudden you're realizing, wow, my days are possibly numbered. And the reality is that none of us know. None of us know if I will be here tomorrow, in 5 minutes, this year in 5 years. None of us know. Yeah. But we often negate death as a possibility that may show up yes. down the road at one point and another. Yeah. And we live our life with maybe a state of ignorance that allows us maybe, yes, to find the strength in certain circumstances. Yeah. And for me, actually, it was almost like a liberation, acknowledging that death may be coming sooner than I actually had ever thought of. Yeah. It was more now, okay, how do I get into action mode? How do I make sure that if this is the outcome, how do I make sure that I make it at least painful for those around me? And of course, the priority was on my husband, the kids, and my business partners. So we actually took all the appropriate measures from a legal perspective. We revisited the will, believe it or not. So even days before I was due to be operated, I was with the lawyers, revisiting the documents. I even told as I said, my husband and my business partners, I said, I have to take all the actions right now as if I will not make it. Because I don't want you to have any burdens, any complications.
Any decision to
exactly.
make on my behalf.
So that's really what my focus was on. Beyond enjoying every single moment that I had, it was about the planning of the process. So if I would not make it alive, that there would be zero burden for those that I love.
How do you practice gratitude in such circumstances? You mentioned that you wanted to enjoy each breadcrumb of happiness that were around you, right? Which is basically trying to feel grateful for everything that you have around you, right? How do you achieve one step at a time to feel more grateful? Do you feel like this experience was like a shock that gave you the ability from one day to another to open your eyes and see the world in a different manner? Or was it a gradual effort for you to start enjoying and opening your eyes more and more? How would you characterize this evolution of being more self-aware and more in this observation of the world around you?
I think death is the gift that can awaken our ability to live with more joy. But we have to admit that that's an outcome that none of us today, at least scientifically, medically, can actually avoid. And because I accepted that that could be an outcome, I was able to find gratitude in the moment. And it's really, as I said, rather than focusing on all the negative things and so on, it's really about just enjoying the gift of now, the joy that come with seeing the kids laugh, having a fun moment with them, going out in nature. And gratitude is something that we can practice. Gratitude, even at the level of the brain, is something that actually, it's like a muscle. The more we practice it, the more easier it's going to be for us to feel a sense of gratitude in all facets of our lives, even in adversity.
How do you practice gratitude?
How do you practice it?
Yeah.
Consciously. And my technique has always been to choose anything that you actually do in a day repeatedly. Look at your phone, look at the time, drink water, whatever you do, washing your hands, choose something that you're doing all the time, every single day, and attach gratitude or something that you want to change in terms of your behavior to basically that practice. So let's say I wash my hands, okay, or I drink some water.
Yes.
As I'm drinking the water, I can have a grateful thought about what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for the beautiful sunshine outside. I'm grateful to have been blessed with a beautiful family. I'm grateful to have the energy to be able to do what I love. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
There's possibilities to find gratitude and joy in literally everything that we do. However, what I've learned, and this is really the paradox, because having been diagnosed with a brain tumor, the paradox was that I had been analyzing the brain for over 10 years.
Yes.
I was passionate about neuroscience, and it was almost paradoxical that I had the brain tumor because I knew how the brain works. And our brains, for example, to keep us alive and for the survival of our species, our brains is more going to be focused on survival. Is there a tiger that's going to come and eat me alive?
Yeah.
So, do I need to act? What do I need to do? And consequently, our brains are more predisposed to have negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. So we have to train ourselves through some of the techniques that I just shared, for example, to be able to switch more and see the beauty, see the positive things in any situation. In fact, there was a research where they took a group of participants and they split them in two. And one group for 1 week was asked to focus on all the negative things that they would see around them. Garbage, graffitis, people screaming, crying, and so on. The second group, they were asked to search for joy. Look at the beautiful flowers, the blue sky, people laughing, kids having fun in the park, and so on. Who do you think was actually happiest as a result of this experiment a week later?
Probably the second group.
Yes, exactly. Because they chose to seek beauty. They chose to see the positive things in our world. Yeah. And despite the chaos we live in, we have that control to choose where we put our attention and energy. And we can put our attention in something constructive, something that lifts us up, that gives us energy to fight and live another day despite the challenges that may arise. And I think if you combine gratitude with curiosity, then you have this magic potion that can allow you to really look at life with completely new eyes.
Yes.
Because with everything that I knew about the brain, as I said, I had this amplified curiosity about even just the operation itself linked to the brain, all these steps before and after, and just the complexities linked to everything that was about to happen to me. So I actually was going in with a sense of curiosity, and I was thinking, well, what can I do? Could I do something to actually increase the probability of success for the operation? Because, often I had led my life until the day of the operation thinking that I was in control of my destiny, control of my choices, control of the investments I was making.
And was it important for you to feel in control?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I felt I was basically making the right choices, and that allowed me to go on the path that I wanted to go. And all of a sudden, all this turned upside down. And the most important 9 hours of my entire life, I had zero control. I had to put 100% faith and confidence, not only in the neurosurgeon, but also the medical team, that they would be making the right choices to help me get through this reality.
Do you remember the last minutes before you fall asleep?
Oh, yes, of course. So I'm in the operating room, and already I had to go into the operating room with a sense of curiosity and excitement as well, because there were just many, many beautiful things that were happening with the kids, with my husband. And I had this sense that, oh my God, let's just get this over with so I can continue enjoying seeing the kids grow and all these beautiful things that were happening around us. And I do not want to miss out on this. So I went in already with a lot of very positive energy and almost like excitement to be able to wake up, and whatever the hurdles will be, ultimately, I believe that life will continue. And when Dr. Serhan came, of course, the conversations, because they were going to shave half of my head. So anyways, we were just talking. And one of the questions, I said, who's going to be cutting my hair? and it's so funny because Dr. Serhan said, Andrea, I'll cut your hair. And I said, can you just make sure you don't make me look too wild? So that was one of the questions. And then I said, if there is any probability that I will have facial paralysis, because this was one of the outcomes, I said, maybe don't cut 100% of the tumor and leave that little piece so I can continue smiling. And that was the last conversation that I had before they put me to sleep. So
you mentioned that you were into the business of joy, I will say, or you were trying already for the past years before that, right? To try to improve the awareness of happiness in the workplace, and you started a business, I believe, in 2015, right? Spark X5 that we're going to talk about. So for 5 years at least, maybe more, you were already day to day talking about happiness, joy, well-being, balance, all of that, right? During this period where you had your brain tumor, do you feel like there was some things that you were preaching for years that felt like irrelevant, or like you misunderstood? Did you feel like there were some, because you were into this situation where you had to take your own medicine, I will say, right? Where you had to try to follow your own principles, trying to live all the guidance that you were already preaching to companies, to individuals. Did you felt like there was some misconceptions that you had before, and this experience made you realize that there are some aspect of what you were sharing to the world that was maybe different or not as you thought they were?
So the process that I had been on and the journey that led me to understand the 5 pillars of holistic well-being that were centered around the application and the startup that you mentioned, it was focused on 5 key dimensions.
Yes.
Purpose, career, or how do you leverage your strengths in your day-to-day activities. It was about relationships. It was about health. And when we talk about health, it was about mental and emotional health and physical health as well. And then finally, it was about quality of life. How do you ensure that you enjoy the journey? And the intention when we started the company was really just to elevate the holistic well-being of employees across corporations and so on. And everything that we had included in the application was based on scientific research, and I had practiced literally every one of those tips on myself.
Yes.
And that's what led me to believe the power of what I had discovered. So by combining all these 5 facets and applying them to my life, I often look actually at the creation of Sparks 5 as the medicine that I needed to be exposed to in order to be able to deal as I did with the biggest challenge that came my way in my life. And I often said it was intended for the employees of the companies we were working with, but what I came to realize after, it was about my own evolution and growth that allowed me to be such a stronger person and understand that you can have chaos in the outer world and you can still find peace in your inner world.
So I think you were ready to face, you were probably the readiest person to face what happened to you, or you felt like there was still some learnings that you get out of this experience?
There's always learnings every day, even today. I continue growing, I continue on my quest for learning new things, so that curiosity within me has just amplified even more.
Yes.
And it's, as I said, it just never stops.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you're perfecting something and you're fine-tuning an instrument. This is how I feel ultimately as a result of all these experiences. And I applied certain principles to the operation, but of course, life happens after as well, the operation, and different kind of challenges come your way. And I said, okay, let me apply the principles that I believe in, that I know have worked. And it's really about the volume, I would say. The same key principles remain the same, but it's about how much do you want to focus on specific aspects like gratitude that we spoke about, that can allow you to stand stronger, irrespective of what emerges in your life.
In which environment did you grow up that helped you build the foundation to face and to approach life this way?
So definitely, I would say that growing up in a communist regime in Romania, I was born there, and my family left when I was about 9 years old. And living in a time where everything was regimented, controlled.
Yes.
Of course, as a kid, you look at the world with different eyes and a different lens. But when we left Romania and my parents managed to get the entire family outside legally, it was really a moment of awe for me.
Which was very difficult.
Yes,
at the time,
it was very, very difficult. But they managed to have my two brothers and I, along with my parents, I mean, they managed to make sure that we left legally the country. But of course, it was a year of turmoil that led me to understand the power of perseverance. Because everyone was saying, you won't be able to get out of the country, this is impossible. And there were many, many challenges along the way. We couldn't even go to school anymore. You now are looked upon by everyone that you know as a traitor. You're against a regime. It becomes very, very complex.
Yes.
But as I said, because we did manage to overcome that huge challenge and still leave the country legally, for me, it was about understanding the power of perseverance, having that clarity of where do we want to go, what actions do we need to move forward with, and basically moving forward in the right direction. And sometimes you may walk on a path and on a road that may lead you not necessarily to where you want to be. It may lead to a dead end. But if you decide to go back and choose another path, this is what I learned in that process. And I would say that this has really been ingrained in me since I've been very, very young. And it's not, as I said, it's not just about finding solutions and so on, but really about finding the positivity along the way and seeing the beauty on the journey, despite the many challenges that emerge.
So you left Romania, you left dictatorship when you were 9 years old, right? My son is 9 years old, and I can see how much those first 9 years were like important to define who he is, and he's at the age where he analyzes a lot of things around himself, right? And trying he tried to understand life through the lens of what he's experiencing. So at 9 years old and during those first years of your life, what do you remember about this period of time? Do you feel like you were into a productive bubble and you didn't realize that you were into a dictatorship and it was horrible? Or at the contrary, you saw how challenging life was at the time?
I would say that you look at the world with the lens of a child, right? So
everything is normal, you know.
Exactly.
It's life, right?
Everything appears normal.
Yeah.
I began, as I got older and as we were living in Canada, I began to see more clearly the huge differences that were existing between living in a communist regime where everything is controlled from the media to what you do and say, and living in North America with so much freedom, freedom of speech, so much color. So it was very, very different in communist regime. And again, I only realized this years and years later. You know, it's about rigidity, it's about uniformity. Don't stand out too much. While in any other country that is not communist, I mean, you can be yourself. You can. We celebrate your uniqueness rather than try to make you as everyone else.
Yes.
And I cherish that. And actually, this was a gift from my parents, I would say, to allow me to exit this confined box where you almost have a pattern that you are expected to follow in terms of when you grow up, this is what you're going to be doing, and these are the rules you're going to have to follow, and so on. And to get us out of those circumstances really opened the doors to so many possibilities and looking at the world with such new lens that it was really, as I said, a phenomenal gift from my parents.
Will you say that it's coming from this environment where everything were controlled, where everything was almost predetermined for you? You feel like it's also one of the reasons why you had such a desire to feel in control, to have to be your own driver and to always decide the path you are going to go?
Yes, most likely. And also, I think it was also watching my parents, right?
Yes.
When I was watching my parents and through the actions they need to take to make sure that we as a family stayed together and that we had a strong desire to continue sticking together and building a new future together. For me, it was very, very powerful.
So how to balance, how to combine the desire, the will to be in control, to feel like in a situation of power with your life, like being the one deciding, calling the shots, deciding where you go, and at the same time trying to be more to find your inner peace. I would say, I'll try to have this stoicism, I will say, where the only thing that really matters is what you can control inside your life. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance this inner control with this environment control in a way? How do you manage to become successful without losing sight of this inner peace?
Mm-hmm. I think it starts with purpose. Because if you do not know what is really important for you, lacking purpose is like lacking a compass as you're out in the wild and you need to decide which direction am I heading towards. Yeah. And the clearer your purpose, and I'm talking about here your existential purpose, why am I here? Because that was one of the key questions that I kept asking myself after the operation. Why did I survive?
Yes.
Some people do not. Yeah. Why was I given a second chance? And how can I make sure that I'm not wasting this chance?
Yeah. Did you find the answer?
The answer is, I said, finding your purpose is really a very lengthy process. I've had multiple iterations of what my purpose, my life purpose is all about.
What's your purpose today?
So to be a catalyst for joy.
And how different it was from your purpose before the operation?
My purpose was very, very different before. And I would say what it lacked primarily, and there's a great friend of mine, Amar, who wrote a book which is called Purposehood. Yeah. And I connected with him a couple of months after my operation. And it was just like so inspiring, the whole conversation. And one of the key principles around how do you build an existential purpose that really serves as your compass to guide you in the right direction, it's really about finding something that has both a selfish and an altruistic reality to it. My purpose before was so altruistic, I had often forgotten about myself in the process. So when I say today I'm a catalyst for joy, it's about bringing joy into this world, but also seeking experiences that bring joy for myself as well. So every single decision I make today is really about, will this bring me joy? And will this have a positive impact on the world in terms of elevating the joy in this world? And when you're looking at every single choice that you make with that duality, you're able to really gain that clarity that allows you to be stronger and to find the inner energy within you that you know that you're doing this and it's your story, it's your desire, it's really what you want to bring to this world, how you want to shine, rather than maybe living the dream of maybe your family, your anyone that was very, very close to you that often had a huge influence in defining who you would become in the future. To give you an example, my parents have always dreamed that I would become a doctor, a medical doctor. It was their dream, and they were prepping me since I was young to really become a doctor. But when I actually reached the point when I was doing health science studies to prepare for medical school, I was literally going to medical school to live their dream. And along the way, I basically had to say, no, this is not my dream. This is not my purpose in life. And I'm going to have to choose another path that will bring me joy, right? Yes. Because ultimately, that's the toughest decision I think that you're going to have to make. Yeah. Is, are you living your dream or are you living someone else's dream?
And this is where you decided to take another branch and go more into finance, economics, and you did a master and a PhD in economics, right? What was the purpose in life that made you follow this particular path?
So at the time, what happened, my interest was really amplified by a lot of the developing world problems. Okay. So there was always a very deep desire within me to be altruistic.
Yes.
How can I help this world? And after doing HEC, I went to France and I did a master's in international finance, but I already started diving deeper into the complexities of what the World Bank and the IMF were doing, the International Monetary Fund. And actually, my focus was like so strong. And believe it or not, they actually came to recruit on the campus of the university in France students that were at that program. And when I was having the conversations with them and they were talking about different possibilities and opportunities, they said, well, given that you speak so many different languages, given your experience, there could be some very interesting opportunities for you, but you have to have a PhD to be able even to be qualified and considered for those opportunities. So for me, it was like, yeah, I want to go work for the World Bank or the IMF. And that's really where I wanted my future to be. And that's the reason I actually did the PhD, because I was in the discussions with these organizations, and that was a path. Like, it was very clear in my mind that I wanted to dedicate my life in being altruistic. And along the way, as I said, it took the operation that lasted 9 hours to actually understand that, no, I have to have a different approach to life and integrate more the selfish aspects as well, to be able to take control, different control, I would say, over my inner emotions, my inner world, because there's only so much you can do.
Yes. But so you did this PhD with the ambition to go work for the for the World Bank, but you decided to take once again another path and go more into aviation, right?
Yes.
Which became so. Did it become one of your passion afterwards, or was it already something that you were passionate about, and it's why you decided to go work for the IATA and Bombardier? In which order did it
happen? What happened, the journey to get the PhD was insane. Mm-hmm. It required so much effort, so much energy.
But in a great place, right? Provence,
yes,
the south of
exactly.
France is not
Beautiful.
The worst place to do a PhD.
I agree. I was very blessed in many, many ways. But what happened, because I was also traveling between Canada and France all the time, my husband was in Canada, and ultimately I told him, I said, well, as soon as we finish, I finished the PhD and I presented, we're going to do something that's super fun together, and I will let you choose what that is, just because, all my free time was just so focused on doing research, travel, and so on. And this is when he said, let's get our pilot license.
It came from nowhere? Or?
He had actually been flying since he was 16 in France. And he actually got his pilot license before even getting his driver's license. So he chose this, and I said, very well, we'll do this, because that was the deal. And I have to tell you that it was the scariest thing in the world for me, because I said, well, it's not something I'm excited about. I'm actually more afraid of getting into a plane and taking control of the plane. But I'll go with the flow. I'm keeping my promise, and we'll do this together. And I have to tell you that in the beginning, it just took so much energy and so much effort for me to overcome that fear. And the interesting thing was that when I was able to overcome that fear, I was able to find so much pleasure and so much enjoyment from flying that sometimes I would get out of the plane and my jaw would hurt because I had been just laughing all the time. I even got into aerobatic flying for fun, to give you an idea. So this is when I also learned that whatever you're most afraid of in life, jump in the water and do it, experience it. And most likely the experience could turn out badly, maybe in some cases, but there's actually going to be more richness in the process if you actually have the courage to do it.
What happens in your brain where you are in this situation of where everything is scary, where you feel not in control, right? And so how your brains go from this state of being scared or feeling like victim of the situation, or feeling like you are not in control, to leaving the plane with a smile and the desire to go the step above and go into aerobic flight. What are the chemicals that made someone change so much?
I think, once again, we're back to curiosity about the experience. And living a life with no regret. This has always been the key focus of my life. Will I ever regret, starting a venture? Would I ever regret making this specific choice? And I have to tell you that one of the core questions around this was around, will I ever regret not having kids? Because when I realized how powerful and how much excitement and joy I was able to experience as a result of overcoming my fear of flying into just, enjoying that. We were in discussions with my husband, okay, well, are we going to build a family and so on? I was like, no, this is not something that I want. My career is going super well. And it was about my career. This is what I thought was really my future. I wasn't even sure I wanted to become a mother. I was even looking often at people that had kids. I was like, why did they choose to become parents? And I kept asking myself, is that something that brings you joy or not? And until we reached a point where I had to once again overcome the fear of becoming a parent.
Why were you scared of being a parent?
I was scared of not being able to control a small child, just a responsibility where there's no going back, right? This is an irreversible action, right? You have a child and now you have to take care of that child all your life. It is a huge responsibility.
And was it a responsibility that scared you?
Yes, it scared me, and I was questioning: am I going to be a good mother? Do I have the maturity to become the best mother possible?
Did you feel like you were going to lose control in a way?
Yes, and lose control. What will happen with my progression within the corporate world? Right? It was really linked to that reality as well, and having worked in the aviation industry, which is very male-dominated, I was among the only women in the executive team that were comprised of men. It was not acceptable for you to just simply leave because you're having a child. And it just became very, very, very complex. And all these questions about, what's going to happen. Now it was about the fear, will I lose my job? Will I lose the possibilities of growth and evolution that I've built over so many years with this company? So all those unknowns were really the things that were holding me back until I realized, I'm going to do as I did for the flying. I'm going to jump in the water and we're going to make this happen. And this is once again when I realized becoming the parent has been the best gift of life, honestly. This is when I discovered unconditional love. It is just like so beautiful. And I believe also the going back to the operation, just again, the excitement that I described earlier as I was going in the operating room, it was actually the kids and my family that were just giving me this appetite to continue living and breathing and just enjoying this journey for as long as I can to be able to see them grow and develop their own lives. And that was what kept me basically clinging on to life. So I was like, okay, no matter how hard this is going to get, I want to continue being there and be there for the kids. Yeah. So you see, if you're able to navigate and manage the fear through action, that then allows you to say, I'm going forward and I'm not going back, right? Then you can take ownership, I would say, of your own decisions and create your own life and your own journey that is really in line with your personal desire on how you want to live life.
Yes. At Bombardier, so in this environment that is male-dominated, as you mentioned, right, where you were very careerist, right? You wanted to have a career. Were you happy? You felt like you were in a healthy environment, and you felt like you were, were you happy at the time?
So there were many beautiful sides to the role that I had in that organization. But of course, it came with challenges. And it was also a stretch, I would say, in terms of my own leadership capabilities. Yes. So I grew a lot in terms of becoming a different kind of leader, more of a servant kind of leader later on in my career. And as I said, so every journey you take, it's never going to be filled only with roses and positive things. It's always going to have challenges and dark days. And it's all about how do you pick yourself up? How do you overcome them? And how do you actually move forward? And I think every single challenge that I had in those roles allowed me to actually look at life differently, to look at what's truly important and what is really the impact that I'm having. And actually, you see, those years while at IATA were fundamental in elevating my curiosity about human motivation and neuroscience.
Okay,
because I was leading these teams, so I was a very young leader. Yeah. And I can tell you, when I was assigned to one of the most senior roles, I remember going around the team, and I had teams all over the world. One gentleman, I asked him, how long have you been with the company? And he said, I've been here 33 years. And I was like, wow, I was not even born when he started working for this company. Yeah. And it was a huge stretch for me to build my credibility as a leader, as a woman leader at such a young age. And not only did I have the challenge being young and a female, I then also had the reality that I had teams all over the world. Mm-hmm. So I had to navigate also the complexities of dealing and working with people across different cultures, understanding that you cannot navigate in the same way, whether you're in South America, the Middle East, Asia. Yeah. So I'm actually so grateful for the opportunity that I had at IATA, because it amplified my openness to different cultures. And it also opened the door to be more curious about the psychology, motivation, and the neuroscience of how can I actually tap into all these different sciences to become a better leader.
Yeah. But so again, you have been at this point around like 14 years into the aerospace industry. What made you leave these industries that was driven also by your passion for aviation, to start creating your own company and to focus on building a wellness application for the employees and like a B2B product?
I had this pull that I could just no longer suppress.
Okay.
It was really driven by a greater desire to contribute to this world in a different way. And it was sparked mainly by our daughter that was born. Mm-hmm. And becoming a mother changed me, made me softer, made me more compassionate, more aware of every single act that we were taking every single day in terms of what world are we creating for our little daughter here.
So it was one of those pivotal moments where your purpose of life changed, and basically you had this one of the first revelations. So your first revelation was when you were in medical school and you realized that it was not the path you wanted to go and you wanted to have a different impact, and focusing more on like trying to see which impact you can have in the world through the financial and economic lens. Then you had another pivotal moment where you had those flights lessons and you faced your fear for height and your fear for flight, and you get some excitement into this new discipline, and you decided to spend the next 14 years into this industry. And then once again, another pivotal moment of being a mother and feeling like you want to do something else of your life and have a deeper purpose. So it's a sequence of a lot of pivotal moments that make you change your purpose of life.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying. Purpose of life actually is in constant evolution as a result of key milestones, key experiences that come along the way. But we just have to open our heart and our eyes to new possibilities and always question ourselves. Do I want to continue being the same Andreea today, and tomorrow, and in 1 year from now? Is this the person that I want to continue being? And is this the impact that I aspire to have on this world?
Yeah. What do you think the Andreea in 10 years will say about the Andreea of today?
Andreea in 10 years from now hopefully will say that my joy for life has even more has been amplified tenfold, 100-fold as a result.
What will she say about your current purpose of life compared to her purpose of life?
I honestly feel I have cracked the code.
Yes. So you feel like you are at the
pivotal moment.
You are at the latest, at the final version of your purpose of life?
There may be refinements, fine-tuning, but when I truly dissect and reflect on what is truly important, what is the meaning of life, I think it's all about joy.
Yeah.
And I know I've been seeking and exploring different answers and convincing myself that there was more to it. At one point, particularly when I started some of the business ventures, it was about, making that venture successful financially while also having a positive impact. So, but the reality is that all these experiences, and particularly the ones in the last couple of years, have taught me to understand that the most important asset that we have in life is time and how we choose to use that time. And the thing that we have control over is our inner world. And I believe that, as I said, that my joy and it's just going to continue expanding.
By definition, I would say that we are always fully confident that our current purpose of life is the best one, or at least we are very not the best one compared to someone else, but the best one for yourself, right? And that you found your calling, right? Because if you wake up in the morning with a purpose of life you are in doubt with, I believe that it's not really a purpose of life. You are more like still into an ideation mode, right? So my question is, when again you are into this situation where you are convinced that your current purpose of life is what is finally what you were seeking for all your life, and finally you know yourself, you know where you want to go, you know how you want to use your life, right? But how to be open to a potential new iteration of this purpose of life? How do you stay critic with regard to your purpose of life, and how do you try to play the devil's advocate in a way of how you do things, and trying to always try to challenge yourself with regard to how you want to spend your life?
Well, I think it comes down to always questioning yourself in terms of, how do I really feel outside? Sometimes we focus on the labels that people put on us on, oh, you've achieved this milestone, so therefore you should be happy, and you've done this, and therefore, you should be on top of the world.
Yeah.
But only you know how you truly feel deep down.
Yeah.
And it's really, I would say, a constant questioning and a constant quest about asking yourself, is this where I want to be?
Do you have doubts today?
Doubts?
Yes.
Today, it feels right.
Yes.
But at the same time, what I've come to realize is that every experience brings a fresh perspective.
Yes.
So beyond the operation that I had in November 2020, I had another brain operation in October 2023.
Okay.
And
so it's 6 months,
yes.
5 months ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what I've come to realize is that the reality is that we have to remain open. We have to have our heart open. So today it feels, as I said, yes, I'm on my right path. I'm living my purpose. But even the switch that happened between Andreea, prior to 2020 and Andreea even now in 2024, I've decided to broaden my scope, broaden my impact. And the inspiration is a result of the most recent operation I had that was not for brain tumor. It was for a brain aneurysm.
What it is?
So brain aneurysm, when you're looking at the vessels within your brain, it's almost as if you have a bubble that is all of a sudden, it's like a berry that is now attached, a bubble of blood that is now attached to the vessel. And when this erupts, that's what can cause a stroke or brain hemorrhage. And so because since my operation in 2020, I have to do MRIs every single year. I have to go back to see the neurosurgeon to make sure is everything okay. And they're always looking here in the back where I had the brain tumor. Yeah. Okay, everything's looking good. And I was getting ready last summer to basically celebrate 3 years since that operation. Yes. And I saw my neurosurgeon and he said, Andreea, all looks good here in the back, but we have found a brain aneurysm behind your eyes. The craziest thing that once again, I took out with him the MRIs from over 10 years ago. And I said, was the aneurysm there? And the aneurysm was there, as was a tumor.
How do you, are you angry with the physician that looked at this MRI 10 years ago?
No, anger is wasted energy from my perspective. I mean, I'm more shocked. And once again, I ask myself, was this a gift from life? Because the decisions that I have made, living life thinking that I was super healthy and everything was fine, have led me to make choices and do beautiful things. So for me, actually, it gave me peace. Because I can tell you, as soon as I walked out of the office from the neurosurgeon who told me I had a brain aneurysm that could erupt, and it was already 8 millimeters, which was beyond this threshold. Normally, there's a threshold, to decide, do we operate on it to prevent it from hemorrhaging and so on. I can tell you, I was obsessed. I can go here because, of course, he told me what the symptoms would be if the aneurysm would erupt, and you have these massive, massive headaches. And what you have to do is within an hour to make sure that you're in excellent hands to be able to save you.
Yes.
50% of the people that have a stroke do not make it. And 50% that do make it, it's a mix. Some have no symptoms, no problems, and others have, paralysis or other sort of complications. And all I could think about as soon as he told me this, and imagine this had been there for so many years,
Yes.
was, okay, how far am I from a hospital? I'm now going on this trip. What if the aneurysm bursts? And my whole life became invaded by fear.
But so you had this aneurysm 13 years ago. You had this aneurysm 3 years ago when you had your brain tumor observed, right? So, and you had many MRI in the process. How how no one saw that you had this this neurism? Sorry, aneurysm. Sorry.
Yes.
So
it is a question. I have the same question. But it's not just the only question that I have. The question is, why did they miss both the tumor and the aneurysm initially, exactly.
But then after that, 10 years later, they only see the tumor, but they don't see the aneurysm.
Yes.
And you are doing a couple of MRI the following years, 2021, 2022. And it's only in 2023 that they see that you have.
Yes.
And again, right, we are in Canada, we have great tools, we have amazing neurosurgeons, we have amazing, right? But still those situations pass through, right?
Yes, and I don't have an answer. This is a mystery of life.
I think the answer is AI.
I agree. And there's many companies right now that are leveraging AI to prevent such human errors, indeed, where you can have this oversight and
you couldn't have died 10 times in the process, right? I mean, you were so lucky that you went through all those human errors.
Yes. But as I said, I cannot have anger. I have more curiosity around life, how life just works in such mysterious ways. But it's not the only mystery is why did they miss it, right? The other mystery is why did I even develop these brain tumors, the brain tumor and the aneurysm? Because even the aneurysm, what I came to realize, they were saying individuals that have brain aneurysm typically have high blood pressure or are smokers.
Yes.
I have never smoked a single cigarette in my entire life. I've never, ever had high blood pressure. So there's so much mystery even around how is it possible that I have the tumor and the brain aneurysm.
So, okay, let's talk about anger for a couple of seconds.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm very I'm amazed by your ability of not being angry. But I mean, if we take another analogy, right? You have an issue with your car. You bring your car to a mechanic. The mechanic saying, "Oh, I know what the problem with your car is, fixing it," and then you leave with your car and you have an accident because he didn't notice that something else was broken, right? Luckily, in all this situation, you end up living, but you may have had a lot of other problems. So how trying to not being angry with regard to people who are you have trust with, how do you, and again, going back to also all the work that you have done in trying to support leaders creating an healthy work environment, right? How do you manage to create a working environment or a relationship with professionals where when trust is impacted, where you feel like your colleague, your partner, your clients, or your service provider, right, doesn't deliver what they are supposed to deliver and don't have don't prove that their expertise is really worth it. How do you navigate through all those emotions by saying everything is happy, I have no anger, I love everyone, and life is only joy? How do you is it healthy to suppress anger from your system?
Mm-hmm. And it's a great question you're asking. This is not about suppression, but rather looking at your emotions with curiosity. So yes, of course, there's those moments of disappointment that I'm shocked. But what I've learned as a result of all my focus on studying neuroscience, do you know how many seconds it takes you to identify or label an emotion that you may be feeling?
Depending of your age, but I would say as an adult, it may, I don't know, maybe 15, 30 seconds or something, you know?
It takes 90 seconds.
90 seconds, okay. Yeah.
So let's say
to realize that you
I'm
are
feeling angry. I'm feeling disappointed, frustrated by the garage that messed up, by the doctors that didn't find the tumor, or
my colleague who didn't provide the right reports.
Yes. And when you know that, you can now actually take a different kind of approach to how you navigate your emotions. So it's not suppressing. I'm never suppressing. I'm actually, experiencing a ton of emotions. But when people choose to live in that dark spot of anger, frustration, irritability, what I have learned about the brain is that it literally destroys your capacity to be creative, to think long-term, to even focus on the problem that you have in front of you and come up with solutions to actually maybe get out of the problem that you're in. Do you see what I mean? So,
but this is for if you stay into this state for a long time, right?
Yes.
But acknowledging that you are angry at like a moment of time, right? Something happens, it makes you angry, right? Is it unhealthy to embrace this anger for a couple of minutes, an hour maybe, and trying to really, trying to assume that you have this anger and not repress it, and in 1 hour later maybe trying to move on to something else? But do you feel like there's this Pixar movie probably that you have seen, right?
Yes.
Inside Out, right?
Yes.
Which is about those 5 emotions in your mind, right? And you have anger, but the movie is mainly around joy and sadness, right? And during the first half of the movie, right, we feel like joy is the main character, that joy is everything, and all the 4 other characters are not good emotions, right? There are negative emotions, right? Disgust, anger, sadness, right? Fear. So it's, and then through the course of the movie, you realize that sadness is important, right?
Yes.
That sadness is a powerful emotion, right? That lead to joy, lead to connection, lead to so many things. And don't you feel like into this, all those pursuit of happiness, like we always focus on joy only, and maybe try to forget or to ignore all these other emotions that are healthy as well?
I fully agree with what you're saying. As I said, I'm never talking about suppressing those negative emotions. In fact, those negative emotions, as long as they are embraced with curiosity, so it's about recognizing them, allowing them to surface, allowing you to understand yourself and to have that self-awareness is very, very powerful. What I have chosen is that once I have this awareness, it's really an exploration into the self, right? Because why am I feeling like this? Because sometimes you surprise yourself, right? Why am I even feeling negative or sad or angry in this circumstance that maybe should have brought me joy? Or do you see what I mean? So for me, it's never about saying no. It's actually understanding that our life is filled with these highs and the lows. And it's by experiencing those lows, those negative emotions, that we can actually cherish more the highs as well. So cherish the lows, but don't stay there forever, because this is where your life is just going to get darker. You're going to lose the joy for life. And that's what I'm saying. Do not ignore it. Rather, embrace it, get to know yourself and understand, okay, why am I feeling like this? Is there something that I can do to move forward? So I'm never saying, oh, no, I don't want to feel angry. But it is a conscious choice that I'm making. And let me tell you why I've made that conscious choice. Whenever we have, let's just say, stressful situations, high irritability situations, what happens, and particularly if you have those chronic negative emotions for a very, very, very long time, your telomeres, which are basically the extremities of your DNA, start shrinking. And there's extensive research on this. And remember when I said before that everything that I've been exploring, researching, and so on, I've tested it on myself. When I read the research about the telomeres and how the extended periods of frustration, negativity, darkness just simply lead to this continuous exposure to chronic stress that literally shrink your telomeres, that leads to disease. It leads to premature death in extreme cases.
Yes.
So when you're living in that world of darkness, it's just literally destroying you from the inside.
But is it because of the emotion of this darkness, or is it because of the imbalance? I believe that when you take anything that is good or bad, but you do it like too much, it's always negative, right? If you do sport, if you do too much sport, it will be negative for you, right? If you drink too much water, it's going to be negative for you, right? So I feel like what is negative for you is the excess of something, right? And that the negativity is about the excess, not necessarily what the subject of the excess, right? So what I would like to explore with you, and I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate here, but why categorizing joy as the sole positive emotion and anger, fear, sadness as the negative one, right? Why polarizing emotions? And where again, it's like it's a recipe of emotion that need to be taken with balance. But there is not bad and negative. Do you see what I mean? Why do you consider sadness as negative?
Well, psychologists often say, well, we navigate in a world of either positive emotions or negative emotions.
Yes, but I don't understand that. For a poet, negative emotion is a source of inspiration, is a source of creativity.
Yes. I fully agree with what you're saying. So as I said, life is about experiencing all these different emotions.
So strange, yes.
It's what you decide to do with what you're feeling. Are you going to let this destroy you, or are you going to now focus on making choices that allow you to do something with that anger, with that aspect of frustration? But it can also, joy can also fuel. Do you see what I mean? It's ultimately, I would say, let's take away the plus or the minus, in other words, the positive or the negative attached to emotions, and look at emotions as a whole, and actually have the self-awareness to say, what am I doing with these emotions that I'm feeling right now that, yes, can propel me forward to do something completely different?
Yeah.
And what will I do with that? So I could have chosen to be very angry, very frustrated, initiate legal proceedings against the doctors that have not. What would that have done?
Probably nothing. Yeah, I agree.
And what would have basically happened, but for me emotionally?
Yeah.
It would have just endured this negative feeling for me. I would have been in a battle zone for years, and I question, would that have helped me become a better person? And yes, the question could be, maybe this could have saved other people and so on. And it's true. I always ask myself this question: what can I do today as a result of these experiences that can actually help others, that can help avoid, maybe what I've gone through?
Yeah.
But the reality is that there's still that mystery. And it's almost like the mystery that I have around everything that has happened to me is overpowering and I'm still on this quest, and I know that I may never find the answer in this lifetime.
Yeah. But going back to your example, right? I mean, if you felt anger at the time, right? If you felt like you feel like it was undeserved, that you went through all those examinations and still people didn't notice that you had many problems, right? If you had anger at the time, this anger could have driven positive outcome, such as the desire to focus on the MRI technology, on the AI, saying, okay, I'm going to change this field because I don't want another Andreea to go through multiple MRI with human errors. And I want to dedicate my life to making sure that no one after me will have an MRI and have unnoticed diseases.
Yes,
right?
And I actually thought of that.
Yeah, and
I did.
But it's fueled by the anger, in the sense, right? The sentiment of unfairness and the desire of fighting this unfairness. Do you see what I mean?
I see, exactly. Because I survived the 9-hour operation, I had such gratitude for being alive that it's not that I was suppressing anger. It was more about how can I take this energy and the second chance at life that I've had to do something. And actually, I started researching. And I came across so many other companies that have already started on that path, that were very advanced in terms of the technologies that are being utilized. And that's something where I decided that this was basically already happening. That I was not going to bring something new to the industry, that others have already come up with those solutions that are going to be saving others. And it gave me a sense of contentment and hope for the future. And I decided not to pursue it.
No, but
and the reality also is because my recovery after the operation brought me to another realization. I was working in building the startup so many hours, it was insane. It was unhealthy. And I made a choice that I don't want to go back to that lifestyle. I don't want to work 7 days a week while we're on vacation. The kids would go to bed. I would continue working until 11 or midnight at night. It was not healthy. So I had to find the balance.
You're living an unbalanced work, building a well-being and wellness application.
Yes, exactly. And this is, it took almost like the losing control for 9 hours and having a fresh perspective on life. And yes, on this, this whole mystery around how could they miss the tumor, right? To get me to say, okay, yes, I want to do something around the MRIs and so on. But then at the same time, I realized the complexities and the energy required to start a new venture. And honestly, as I was recovering, getting back on my feet, I said, I don't see myself having that same, crazy life that I had before. And this is where my purpose became selfish and altruistic. I said, I can find a way to have a positive impact on this world, but I cannot lose sight of my own well-being, my own priorities, and what fuels my energy, because otherwise I won't, I could fall down again.
Yes.
And that's not going to get me further in changing this world for the better.
Yes. So, and again, right, I have nothing to say against your choice, right? And I feel like trying to go to live this experience, saying I will continue to double down and to focus on joy and trying to be this catalyst of joy is amazing, right? And I think what I try to convey is basically that it was one option among others, right? You could have chosen to pursue other paths, to try to leverage other emotions or to focus on other emotions as a following step, right? That joy is not the only path, is not the only thing to pursue, and everyone need to find what they resonate with, right? And some people may resonate with other emotions, right? Some people will say that when going through this experience, they realize the sadness that they may had during this time, communicating with their families. And you could have said, okay, I want to be a social worker, supporting families and trying to really focus on the sadness and trying to help with grief and and it could have been another path, right? But I believe it's one of the things that is sometimes forgotten, I will say, is that I feel like sometimes we have this tyranny of joy, a sense of joy is what matters the most, and that may put some people into like a form of culpability of thinking, but I'm not fueled by joy. I fueled by revenge, or I fueled by all the scar tissue that life gave me, and I want to focus on supporting others in their supporting those scars, and sometimes some people are not set up for joy, right? Joy is not necessarily something that their body, their physiognomy, their DNA are supporting. Don't you think? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to distinguish between happiness and joy.
Oh, okay.
Because I know often we use it interchangeably, but I see a huge difference between both.
Okay.
And I don't think we can seek joy. It's something that we can tap into through our own inner world and self-awareness. And joy can be found even in the most challenging times, in darkness.
So what's the difference between happiness and joy?
Happiness is, I can get this iPhone and it will make me happy, or I can achieve this specific thing. So we're like seeking, we're getting something that we think is going to be bringing us to a level of happiness that is much, much higher. Okay. But in reality, okay, what happens if your iPhone breaks? Has my happiness disappeared? Do you see what I mean? Or sometimes we achieve certain goals and they're like, wow, I thought I was going to be happy and I'm not feeling happy. So
happiness is like an end goal, where joy is like more the path. Or the
joy is something as I said, it is an emotion that we can feel at any moment in our life. Happiness, often we think it is as a result of achieving something in the external world.
So can I experience joy without being happy?
Yes.
And can I be happy without experiencing joys?
Yes, I believe so. Because you see, I was not happy to get the diagnostic, both of the aneurysm or the tumor, but I was able to experience joy. Joy for being alive now. Yes, my world, my life, what's happening in my brain seemed very complex, and I had all these questions. So I was not happy, of course, to get the diagnostic. Yeah. By the way, you're going to have to go see the neurosurgeon, go through the operation, have half of your hair shaved. Yeah. Like, all those things were not making me happy. I was terrified.
Yes. And are you making a difference between joy and gratitude then?
So gratitude is really, as I said, gratitude is that positive emotion that just invades your spirit of whatever, as I said, makes you come alive. That you're really grateful to have in your life, and it's grateful to breathe. Great, do you see what I mean? It's you can just focus on yourself rather than always on the external world to find joy.
So joy and gratitude are similar in the sense that where you try to take, not pleasure, but you take to try to see positivity in any situation, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever, even if the situation is sad, is like frustrating, is like positive or anything, but you try to, at any given time, trying to see the positivity in what you experience. Is it
to see the gift, to see the gift in that moment. And I can tell you, often, sometimes people ask me, well, if you could have avoided having a tumor, would you have chosen not to have it? And actually, I would say no. Despite the challenges, despite the hurdles, it is the person that I am today is a result of these experiences. So in fact, even think about your life, right? Some of the toughest challenges that maybe you have been exposed to have allowed you to become maybe a better version of yourself, to look at life differently.
To meet different people.
Yes, exactly. And it has elevated your resilience, right? So when you're looking back at all the negative things that have ever happened in your life, are you now looking at them with gratitude as a gift from life? And that's my perspective on things. That every single bad thing or negative thing that has emerged was actually a gift. And I choose to look at it as a gift.
And do you feel like everyone is set up equally to embrace joy?
I think we do have the inner power within us, but we live in a world where it's very easy for all of us to lose that inner power that we have. To focus on the opinions of others or what we see on social media or other factors, to allow to permeate ourselves like so deeply. And I think that's why we have the problems that we have in our world globally with mental health issues and people that are on antidepressants. The numbers are just increasing every single year.
But what the role of DNA in all of that, right? So it has been shown that DNA has a high impact, a high factor of on your ability to find joy or happiness, right? We're talking more and more about the hormonal imbalance of every individual, right? So we all have a different DNA, we all have a different hormonal balance, and it evolves in life, right? I may not have the same hormonal balance that I had when I was a teenager, probably not, right? So how do you help? How do you support someone who has not the right predisposition from a DNA viewpoint for seeking happiness, who has an hormonal imbalance, who has anxiety, depression, right? And when you're talking to those people and you try to give them all the best principles or all the best practices, all the framework for happiness and for joy, you're speaking another language for them almost, right? They hear, but they are in the impossibility to do it, right? So how do you approach such situation? Do you recommend them to start with trying to find medication and try to find support through chemicals before going into an inner peace or inner awareness exercises? How do you approach such situations?
So there's multiple things that we can do. I mean, indeed, some mental health issues are chemical imbalances that emerge, and those require medication, right? But not all cases need medication to be treated with. I think there's certain fundamental things that are super easy to integrate into our lives and that I've been practicing and I've been studying for many, many years, and that have been proven to be very, very effective in changing our mood. So even if we're in a negative state of mind, for example, exercise, and even there's some research recently that came out about the power of dancing.
Yes.
How dancing was a medication that was prescribed to certain individuals that were actually depressed, and how their evolution as a result of practicing dancing or exercise in general really improved their overall state. Do you see what I mean? So there's specific things that we can do every day. There's mindfulness as well. That's very, very powerful.
But you need to have this open... my point, I guess, is that I feel like you need to have an openness, you need to have a stability, you need to have a kind of a balance, I will say, to embrace doing more of what you already have, right? But when you are at the bottom of the wave, where you are in deep depression, and someone asks you to go dance, they will be rejecting that, right? Say, I don't want to dance, right? I feel miserable, right? I would prefer almost to die than to live, and you ask me to dance.
I see what you're saying.
Do you feel like it may sound like, I mean, do you understand? Do you see what I mean?
I totally understand what you're saying. And we have a choice in every single moment to go in auto-destruction mode.
Is it a choice?
I believe we have more control over the key actions, as I said, and especially the key emotions that we feel inside than we actually think. And there's so much research, as I said, around the power of meditation, the power of exercising, the power, even yoga laughter, on allowing individuals that are maybe in that darkness to come out of it. But it takes consistent practice. And often it's almost like saying, okay, I want to build up my biceps or my muscles, and I'm going to go to the gym. And you go to the gym today and maybe tomorrow, and you're like, okay, where are my muscles? I don't see them. And then you stop. The reality is that a lot of these practices required a sustained effort to see the overall positive impact on us. And often we may be giving up too fast, too early, and we may choose not necessarily to put in the effort. I can tell you that I exercise 7 days a week because I know it is just phenomenal, not only in terms of blood flow, it's good for my brain, it's good for my mood, it's good for my mental clarity. So every single...
But you are considered as a balanced individual, right? As you mentioned, right? You always been healthy, you always been careful of your habits, you never smoked, you always exercise, right? You always embrace curiosity, you are a very smart individual, very energetic, right? You have all the positive things are on your side, right? But again, do you reconsider that it's a choice of not trying those things? Again, I mean, personally, I'm very much like you in a lot of sense, right? I mean, personally, I've been always super happy. I had no big problems. I'm very similar to you in a lot of aspects, right? And for a long time, I was frustrated when seeing people not trying, seeing people not doing what is necessary for them to get out of this dark place, right? But I felt with some distance now that I was looking at their situation from my point of view, right? From my point of view, where I was in control, where I had the energy, when I was the calm, where I had the force, right, to fight against darkness. But when you are in the dark place, when you don't have energy, when you don't have hope, when you don't have purpose, when you don't have anything, right, everything left your body, right, how do you find the force to stand up? Do you see what I mean?
Yes. You have to take small steps. I was not who I am today years ago. Many, many years ago when I started my career, I was not exercising. I did not understand everything that I've been researching over so many years. And everything that I've researched, I've tested on myself. And hence the reason why I do what I do today is because I think there's also an educational element that plays a key part in transforming for the better people's lives. We are not educated at school on how to navigate our negative emotions, that it only takes 90 seconds for us to identify whatever emotion we're feeling and be able to transform that. Yes. We are not educated on the power of sleep. Sleep, for example, if we do not sleep 7 to 8 hours if we do not get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, it elevates our anxiety the next day. Yeah, do you see what I mean? Yes. So all these things that we choose to do every single day, even from the, what we drink, drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink coffee. Everything that I eat is driven and fueled by all the research I have been doing for so many years. But the Andreea I am today was not, as I said, like that in the early days of my career. And hence the reason I've decided to focus on the educational piece. And I can tell you that even today, I give talks and I give conferences. I speak with executives, with CEOs.
Yeah.
And some of them, sadly, have lost their way. They have prioritized things that in our society often we believe are so important: status, salary, growing my business, or my reputation, and at the cost of my health, at the cost of my relationship sometimes. And I just feel it's so sad. And if we can teach individuals specific techniques that they can slowly start taking every single day to begin transforming their lives and see the positive impact it can have, not only in terms of their energy, but their mental clarity, their mental mood, I think we can transform our world for the better.
Yes.
And actually lower the epidemic that we have around mental health issues and truly transform our world. So
what you described about those leaders being unbalanced, was it the Andreea from the early days that left darkness? Is it when you mentioned that you were different when you were younger, right? Mm-hmm. And you practice on yourself those exercises. Was it this darkness that you had inside you at the time?
Yes, there were dark days. I mean, I used to, if I did one small mistake, my emotions were, overpowering me, and I would be so concerned about, what's going to happen? Oh my God, I made a mistake. And it was really, really overwhelming. And then that permeates not only in terms of how you show up as a human in this world, and it impacts your personal relationships, it impacts your relationship within an organization if you're leading a team, and so on. And I realize that I have to have the self-awareness of how I am showing up in this world and be more conscious of how that's going to be impacting me not only today, but also in the long term. And this is where, as I said, I connected the dots with everything from the telomeres and the connection with disease and how I need to bring more mindfulness into what I do and implement various practices to really transform the Andreea that I was in my early days to the one that I am today.
Yes. But so going back to those discussions that you have with those leaders, right? How do you... What are your recommendations to entrepreneurs who are looking for having an healthy business, right? To find like specific wellness into the collaboration of their teammates. How do you? What are the best practices? What is the framework, I will say, that you recommend them to put in place to have a balanced ecosystem?
Everything starts with a leader, who you are as a human, and you have to have that self-awareness to be able to ask yourself, how am I showing up? And often we focus so much on action. I have to do this, and so on. But we forget on our way of being. Am I being kind? Am I being generous with my time? Am I being a mentor for those that need my guidance? Do you see what I mean? Mm. Am I being compassionate vis-a-vis the specific individual, given the circumstances that they're experiencing? And I'm actually writing with Christophe Auconier, who's based out of France, our upcoming book, which is focused on the human growth code. Oh, and nice. We're going to be actually diving deeply into 12 core dimensions that can allow leaders to transform their organization, their leadership. And fundamentally, those 12 dimensions are broken into 4 essential points. It's about resilience that we spoke about. Yeah. It's about the relationships, how we nurture those relationships. It's about our resourcefulness. In other words, how do we tap into the gifts that we were all given?
Yes.
And finally, it's about relevance. And this connects with purpose. Yes. So what is your purpose as a leader? What is the purpose of your organization? And how do you use that as an inspiration for your team?
Yes, a little bit like this golden circle, right? Where you have the why at the centerpiece that drive the how and the what. And so a question around relationship, right, that you mentioned. So nowadays, and we talked a little bit about it before our discussion, but in today's world where the teams are more and more remote, right? Mm-hmm. How this remote work redefine relationship in the workplace? How are you recommending that the teams can go back into the office and have this physical almost interaction, right? A real life interaction? Or do you feel like as a society we're going to adapt and create a new type of relationship through virtual platforms?
I believe going back to the past is not the ideal way forward. And I know there's many conversations that are happening right now, many organizations or leaders that are forcing actually their employees to come work in the office. I don't think any rigid approach is going to be effective. I think we live in a new era where the tools and systems we have been utilizing since the COVID time have proven to actually increase productivity, allow individuals to have a stronger work-life balance. Why would you want to take that away from individuals? Why? Yeah. And in fact, even prior to the pandemic, I was talking with certain leaders and they were telling me they were doing some tests within their organizations about remote work. And they noticed actually that the productivity was going up. So there's so much research that has indicated that right now, it's not important where we work. It's important on just giving people the freedom, the flexibility that they need to choose to live a life with freedom, both in terms of their contributions at work, but also in their personal lives, because you need to have you need to look at the integral reality of each human. We're not just workers and employees. Our lives are so much richer. And I think when we bring in these rigid conditions in the workplace, from my perspective, I believe we take away the joy that employees can experience outside of their work life. So yes, I know that when it comes to relationships, there's nothing that's going to be replacing face-to-face interactions. So I think there's a need to let people work from wherever they want, but create those opportunities for people to also come together on a regular basis to the extent possible. And I know that in the global world that we live in, with employees possibly spread across the world, that may be more challenging. But there are many, many ways we can actually do this to bring people together. So my co-author, that basically is one of the founding members of Innate Motion, actually has been working in this way even prior to the pandemic. And what they do is that they ensure that all their team members actually get together once a year to basically connect and bond and strategize on how to move forward. Yeah. And they've, as I said, they've been super successful in taking this approach. And this is just one example among so many that have worked. It's just about trust at the core, trusting your employees to be able to juggle their time, their priorities, to be able to contribute in an effective way to the growth of the organization.
Yeah. So to your point around trying to find the purpose in every organization, right? Something that scares me a little, or that at least triggers me in some way, is it do some echoing to all the ecological movements as well, right? Where for the past decade now, we are seeing how much it was important to try to be more ecological aware, trying to be more careful, right? And all of that is super positive, and I have nothing against those type of precepts, right? But what happened is that we went from, as a society, as a marketing effort, from something positive, something worthy to be addressed and discussed, to a huge wave of greenwashing and companies trying to now put a lot of ecological comments or purpose or efforts where it was more marketing than anything else, right? Are you afraid that, again, purpose, joy, which are key important concepts, become a marketing tool that is not really embraced, or that is fake, right? And again, there is a lot of companies that don't necessarily have big purposes, right? There are service companies. They're just here to, I don't know, like a bakery to make your bread in the morning, or as a mechanic to fix your car. Do you need a big purpose to fix a car? Do you need a big purpose to make bread? Do you need big purpose to be a consultant at McKinsey, or to be, I don't know, a flight pilot, right? Do you need to have and promote this big purpose of life when you just want to do a job without too much fanciness?
I think you do need a purpose, and people that do not have their purpose, or organizations that do not have a clear purpose statement, will lack opportunities to do positive things in this world. I agree with you with the greenwashing. And where does this begin? We're back to the leaders. Do you want to be unethical? Do you want to be generous in terms of contributions you want to make in the world? You see, so that's why it starts at the human level. I think tackling some of the largest challenges that we have in this world, including anything linked to climate change and so on, starts with us as humans recognizing that we have imperfections, but we also have the possibility to do great things. Yeah. And it's sad that some companies have turned purpose into greenwashing and have done unethical things, and some companies are still doing it today.
Because most of them are maybe not led by specific humans or leaders, but are led by shareholders who are more interested into the profit maybe than the health of the organization.
So we're back to the human. We're back to the human dimension. Yeah. The humans sitting on those boards are guiding where organizations are going. However, you also have the B corporations that have actually managed to show that there is a way we can actually take care of the planet, take care of our people, and really have a very strong and positive purpose, and be authentic, and be acting always with integrity, rather than saying we're doing one thing, but then when no one is watching, doing something else.
Yeah.
And there's more and more organizations that are getting their B Corp certification, which is testament that we are on the right path. We are transforming how leaders are engaging to tackle some of the core challenges we have in this world. And then once again, it's a choice, right? You know, which companies do we want to be part of as an employee, for example? Do I want to work for a company that has a very strong purpose? And I think in today's world, and the generation that is right now finishing their studies and looking to integrate the workforce, they are very focused on sustainability and purpose-driven aspects that are really core, and it's going to be fueling the core decisions in terms of who do I want to work with, which are the companies I want to be part of. And often, if there's going to be a disconnect between their own purpose and the company's purpose, they're not going to go in that direction. So I think companies today can no longer afford, in my opinion, to not take that seriously and ethically.
Could we? But is it really an extreme to consider that a business can be, the sole purpose of a specific business could be just to make profit, to make money without necessarily a deep purpose, right? And again, if we take the example of the baker, right, who has a bakery, right? the baker loves to do breads, is very talented to it. He doesn't have a particular passion for bakery, but he's good at it. His passion, his purpose of life is to paint, to be a sculptor, to take care of his kids, to go watch movies or do whatever the sport, right? And his business is more survival assets. He's good at it. He's doing it. He's making his money, right? But this is not where his purpose of life is, right? Is it okay, or is to your point? Is it like a lack of opportunity or a missed opportunity of having a bigger impact?
The question I have is, if you ask that person when they're going to be on their deathbed, do you regret anything that you have done? And often people regret things that they have not done than things that they did. So if you choose, again, and I'm not saying, everyone has to pay the bills and you have various responsibilities that require you to maybe take certain actions. But if you're choosing to spend days doing something that is not necessarily bringing a sense of fulfillment or meaning to you, I believe, and based on everything that I've been reading and researching, is that it just eats you up inside. There's something that is lacking, right? You're going to achieve a growth of 10, 50% of your business, but you're going to be seeing, why am I not feeling, as content as I was expecting as a result of basically selling more croissants or breads and so on. Yeah. I think that's where we need to choose.
But it may be elsewhere, right? Not all purpose of life made you eat, right? Not everything put food on the table, right?
But we spend the majority of our lives in the working world, right? Yes. Given the many hours that we spend at work on a daily basis, why not make the choice to pursue something that brings you greater sense of meaning and fulfillment?
Which is the notion of ikigai, right?
Yes.
It's trying to find the perfect balance between what you are good at, what people need, what brings you happiness, and what's make a profit, right?
And I think we're back to the question you were raising earlier. The individuals that are just going to be doing it purely for the monetary are most likely going to be the ones that slowly life will just get heavier. Yeah. Their mood and energy is going to go lower and lower, and will sometimes even go as far as falling into a depression, feeling that something is missing in their life because they have, as I said, they have chosen a path that is not necessarily leading them to fulfillment, sadly.
So to the baker listening us, right, who has as a driving force, as a passion to run marathon, right, and to be athletes, right, will you recommend him to stop his bakery and to focus on being a professional athlete and make it his job and his work? Yeah.
I think you can find purpose behind anything that you do.
Yes.
It's about gaining that clarity. It's not necessarily requiring a shift in becoming now a painter, an athlete, or doing something else. When you're looking at some research in terms of cleaners that were in hospitals, and what they realized is that the individuals that had clarity over their purpose, they were saying, I'm here doing exactly the same job, all right, but I have purpose, and I understand that my impact is about helping patients recover faster, right? Well, the other ones that were simply saying, I am here to get a paycheck at the end of the week or the month, those individuals were doing, as I said, exactly the same thing, but we're just looking at their contributions to the world with fresh eyes.
There is this story, and I don't know if I'm going to share it properly, but this story of someone going to see someone sculpting a stone next to a cathedral, right, building a cathedral, and the person asks the person, "What are you doing?" And the person is saying, "I'm building a cathedral," right? And because what they are seeing is the big picture, what they are contributing to, right? Which is not necessarily sculpting the stone, but building these big things, right? And contributing to this bigger vision, right? And that everyone is putting his own stone to the edifice and supporting this big vision. Yeah.
Indeed. It's like anyone working at NASA, and whether it's the cleaner, going back to the cleaners, or whether it's an executive in IT or whichever department, everyone knows what the ultimate mission is. We're putting people on, in space, in whichever planet we choose, linked to space exploration. And that clarity gives a sense of meaning to everyone through their contributions, and that could be small or large. And I think that's what needs to shift. It's not, I need to leave this organization or stop becoming a baker. Shift your perspective and seek deeper within yourself. How am I? How is the bread? Maybe the bread is a means to make other people start their day with delight and deliciousness that allows them to basically have a more beautiful day ahead. Do you see what I mean? That's what it's all about.
So we are almost at the end, and I have so many other topics I wanted to mention with you, but we're not going to be able to go through everything. One topic that I would like to cover with you now, which is related to what we just discussed around purpose of doing something, right? So you spent many years working for the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, right? So what's the purpose of art, and how an artist finds purpose in his work?
So my role with the museum was really to be part of a philanthropic circle, which is called the Angel Circle. And after being on that board for a number of years, I also became the co-president of that philanthropic circle. And when it was created, the intention behind it was actually to make art more accessible to communities, and particularly families that could not afford a visit at the museum. Mm-hmm. And the reason I got involved, particularly as I was thinking about my kids and their creativity, I was thinking, if someone was born in a community here in Montreal that did not have the means to go to the museum, I said, what if there's a Picasso or a Rembrandt hiding in those neighborhoods, unfortunately, that could never come to the museum? And I said, that's the reason I'm going to be doing this. And the philanthropic circle that basically are part of the museum contribute to different facets. But the Angel Circle was really about bringing those families to the museum. And it was also about contributing to some of the largest exhibits that the museum has had in the past couple of years. Yeah. So that's the reason I chose to go there. In addition to that, I have studied the power of art for many, many years, and have even brought clients of mine to the museum to see the benefit of art therapy. Okay. In fact, there's tremendous research around this that has shown that even to tackle mental health problems or challenges, art is a very effective way to really, I would say, explore all the emotions and let them just burst in color on a canvas. And as I said, I've always seen the power of creativity and have believed in it, and hence the reason why I've gotten involved and have basically been part of a lot of the exhibits for many, many years with the museum.
But going back to this question of purpose of art, right? How do you think artists are expressing their purpose of life?
Well, imagine a world with no art, no color. How would that feel? Yeah.
So is the purpose of art to create emotions? Is it?
I truly believe. I truly, but it's as much for the person watching or seeing a painting, and art comes in so many different forms, right? as much for the artists themselves, because it is a means to convey emotion. It is a means to share a message that could be so powerful and transformational. Yeah. And I think the beauty of actually humans is the burst of imagination that ultimately comes out through art. Yeah. And for me, the purpose is, as I said, we're back to the selfish and altruistic dimension. How can we create a more colorful world while also navigating our own emotions more beautifully? Yes. And whether you're a poet, whether you're a painter, whether you're a sculptor, it's really about embracing our humanity, I would say.
Could you tell me how it was to collaborate with Thierry Mugler for one of your expositions?
I mean, what I'm always impressed is by the team of the museum, which puts together these amazing exhibits. And whether it's Thierry Mugler, there was also another one with another French designer, Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Ah, okay. During your time there?
Yes, during my time there. It's first of all, the level of effort is unimaginable.
Yes.
It takes years
to
orchestrate and bring this to life. And what is beautiful is not only, as I said, the artistic parts that is emerging from the artist, but it's all this teamwork and all these people coming together to show it in the best light. And that has been a phenomenal experience to be exposed to understanding the behind the scenes reality, because an exhibit may be there for a couple of months, but it took 5 years to actually put him in place. And
do you sometimes face like specific requirements from the artists that you are not necessarily comfortable with?
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's clear as certain artists that unfortunately are no longer alive have foundations that guide certain principles. So there's a lot of conditions that the museum has to navigate around to make sure that everyone is happy and all those conditions are met.
Yeah. No, it's one other topic I really wanted to discuss with you that I didn't know before preparing this interview was this notion of flow mastery, right? We didn't talk about flow a lot during this discussion, but it's something that really intrigued me, and we're going to end on that. But I would like to understand, first of all, what's your flow? Where is it flying, or is it something else? I'm curious to understand what's flow. Could you describe to our audience what is flow mastery? How to find your flow? How to consistently be into this state of flow? And what are the benefits of being into this state compared to other type of activities you may be in?
Okay. Flow is the most exhilarating thing that we can immerse ourselves in. It is that state when we are able to tap into the most creative side of ourselves. And when we're in flow, we can actually elevate our productivity, elevate our creativity, and elevate our motivation. In fact, there's even research that has indicated that when we're in a state of flow, and how this actually began, it started with athletes that were able to surpass themselves and reach world records. And Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, which is one of the originators, I would say, of flow, who started doing a lot of research around this, was digging deep into what is happening in the minds and the brains and the bodies of the individuals to be able to push themselves to that level of performance that is mind-blowing. And what they realize is that when we're in a state of flow, actually, there's 5 neurochemicals. I won't go into each one of them, but dopamine, serotonin are basically activated in our brain. And that is why we're able to tap into this phenomenal performance where it's like we're finding solutions and everything just seems to go, in the right direction. What we need to understand is that we cannot get into a state of flow for things that we're not motivated by. Like if you love to golf and all of a sudden now and you hate skiing, like you're not, you see what I mean? Typically it's about getting into states of flow where you're leveraging your strengths or something that you're great at and taking on a challenge that is pushing you a little bit outside of your comfort zone. In fact, there's the optimal skill and challenge ratio that have been identified as a door to flow. And in fact, if you're putting this on an X and Y basically graph, and imagine at the bottom you have your skill level, on the Y-axis you have your challenge. There's that sweet spot where, as I said, you are skilled and you're a master in a specific field, and now you're embracing a challenge that is slightly higher than something that you've done until now, and you're able to maintain yourself in that state of flow for a certain period of time. But what happens if you actually continue doing something, whether it's something professional in sports, whatever it may be, your skill is going to increase. And unless you actually increase the level of challenge, you're going to fall in a state of boredom and get outside of that state of flow. Similarly, now, if I have a certain skill level and I embrace or I take on a challenge that is like massively beyond my skill level, I'm going to get in a state of anxiety. So we need to know ourselves to be able to tap into flow by leveraging our strengths and managing the level of challenge that we're taking on. Now, the research has also shown that states of flow are optimal during about 90 minutes. Our brain, because it is just so demanding at the level of the brain, can only function optimally in that state of flow for that long. And there's certain conditions that allow you to access flow, certain elements that hinder it. If you have had a big party, drank a lot the previous night, and have not slept a lot, try getting into flow the next day. I can tell you it's going to be impossible. So our lifestyle and the choices that we make that relate to taking care of our energy, when it comes to our body and our mind, is essential to be able to tap into those states of flow. And I think very often people think, oh, well, I'm going to get into flow, I'm going to follow the recipe, and it's going to be enough. No, it's not enough. Don't have a big bowl of pasta just before. It's just going to create brain fog. And as I said, all this is scientifically proven. So you have to master the conditions that will allow you to tap into flow and really show up as the best version of yourself. And when you're in that state, you're going to be losing the sense of time. You're going to be losing the sense of yourself. And you're going to come out of that state. You're going to be so massively euphoric. And you're going to say, wow, 2 hours have passed by and I didn't even see it.
What are some of those preparations that you're mentioning? What are some of those steps to prepare yourself to go into this state of flow?
So the first one, as I said, is understanding the key strengths that you have and understanding the challenge that you're about to embark on. So the skill challenge ratio is really, really key. And then having clarity over your objective is super, super important.
For the day, for the session?
Correct, exactly. Yeah. So let's say you choose to prepare yourself for a massive presentation that you have to give, and you want to get into a state of flow to actually prepare the key messages and so on. The thing is that you have to have such clarity on what is the outcome after that hour or hour and a half. It has to be super clear. It cannot be fuzzy. Mm-hmm. So you need that clarity. You need the skill challenge ratio.
Not eating a bowl of pasta.
Exactly. You need to be in top mental and physical shape. You have to have slept 6 to 7 hours. You have to be well hydrated. You also have to identify whether you have different elements or energy levels throughout the day. And some people may be more energetic in the morning. Some people may be more energetic at night or in the afternoon. choose those peak states during your peak moments. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
You have to have zero distractions. You cannot have
Kids.
some kids around you, music or elements that distract you. The phone, your messages, like put away the phone.
Yes.
So no distractions. And those are some of the key elements that are really, really essential to allow you to find that state of flow.
Do you have a daily routine that you are following to when you wake up in the morning or where you go to bed or before entering a state of flow?
To enter a state of flow, and I often use it today, particularly in writing the book, and because we're really in the final stages of finishing the book, and I have to get in a state of mind where there's zero distraction and my focus is amplified on what I'm about to do, on the topic that I want to explore deeper, that I need to research, write about, and so on. And for me, what I've learned through the years is that I can access, if I've really, as I said, slept well, exercise, I'm in top shape, I've meditated, and I'm in a state of mind where I feel positive, I know I'm ready to enter that state of flow. And the final step that I get into is listening to music that really just closes the door on all the chatter that may be happening in my mind about other things that I have to do with the kids or other projects and initiatives.
This inner voice.
Exactly. And for me, I have a playlist that is about getting me into that state of flow. For other people, it could be meditation just before getting into flow, whatever it may be. And then as soon as I put on that playlist, I know that within the first song, I'm going to be in a state of focus where nothing will distract me. And I think that is really one of the biggest challenges in today's world is how do you find the environment? Because that's also another one of the conditions. How do you place yourself in the environment where you can have zero distractions and I ultimately focus on what you want to do?
Yeah. Is your playlist public?
Sorry?
Is your playlist public?
It's not public, no. but what has been shown to work more effectively, particularly to put you in that level of optimal brain waves, is when you have music that is more instrumental rather than with words. Because our focus...
Lo-fi or classical music.
Yes. And actually, it's been proven that there's going to be a struggle. You know, it's almost like when you're getting on that bicycle... Right? You know, the first pushes are going to be a bit more challenging. Getting into flow is also going to be a bit more challenging at the beginning. So that's why you have to learn what works for you. And music that is instrumental is really very powerful for me. And then once you are able to get through that first, you know, let's just say, a pressure, like it's like riding the bike, then it becomes super smooth and super flowy and so on. So that's what it feels like.
If you had one book that you could offer to everyone around you, which book will it be?
I would say Purposehood, as I said, from Amar. It has truly transformed the way I look at my life, my purpose, and feel very grateful not only to have read the book, but also to know Amar very well and continue the amazing conversations with him around this.
And if you could go back in time and talk to the 9-year-old Andreea living Romania with the hope of being an architect, what would you tell her?
I would say so what I would say basically, just ask the question again, sorry, because I lost my train of thought.
What would you say to the 9-year-old Andreea living Romania with the ambition of being an architect?
Never, ever stop believing in your inner power to create a more beautiful world moving forward than the one you're currently seeing.
Thanks a lot, Andreea.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Hope you like this session.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's the same. And I'm going to put into the link into the description the link of your books, the link of your podcast and your website. Again, Andreea is doing amazing work. You are supporting as well a lot of organization. You are doing a lot of public speaking as well. So I will invite everyone to follow you and to see your work.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.